is a licensed marriage and family therapist, and I met her a couple years ago now, which is kind of crazy to think, but I began seeing her as my therapist, and I came to her in a like hard spot that was deep in anxiety and like struggling with boundaries, and she just empowered me to like sort out my emotions, equipped me with tools, and I know myself so much better, and I'm so much braver now. And I like she's gonna probably blush, but she's obviously wise and knowledgeable and thoughtful in therapy, but she's also so kind and empathetic, and you became like a friend to me. So I tell you a lot how much I appreciate you, and we're just so glad you're here. So I'll kind of let you introduce yourself a little bit more, like what you're kind of doing now and everything. But Sarah, you can take it away.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Tracy. That really does mean a lot to me. And you are very right. The cheeks are a little red. If I were wearing a mask, you wouldn't even know. So, but it is lovely to see your faces. Yes, Tracy is right. My name is Sarah Barbuto. It's Italian. Little fun fact for you. Barbuto actually means bearded one. And Sarah means princess. So my name literally means princess bearded one. So you're welcome. And I'm sure you'll never forget that. Yeah, very fitting for me. Tracy is right. I am a licensed marriage and family therapist. In October of last year, actually launched my private practice, which is huge for me. It's a really big deal. Prior to that, I worked for Benton County as a behavioral health consultant. I worked for Friends of the Family, which is a local faith-based nonprofit in the area. And prior to that, I provided mental health in school settings, both in California and here in Oregon. I did move here from Southern California. Yes, I'm very nice, I promise. Still don't own property. Still don't have anything to do with real estate prices. So yes, and I'm a really good driver, okay? I'm very courteous. So just want to get the basics down. Yeah, and my heart has really hurt for where our world is right now. This has been such a hard year on so many levels, and people are really, really struggling. We carry stress and tension in our bodies, and I'm guessing that you might be doing that right now. For instance, if your tongue is on the roof of your mouth, remove it. If your shoulders are up a little high and you're wearing your earrings, take them off. Kind of wiggle out your hands a little bit. And I'm actually wondering if you guys would indulge me by doing a relaxation exercise. And I know there are little ones here, so just do the best that you can. But first and foremost, we're just going to take a couple of deep breaths. And we're talking like the deep belly yoga breaths, we're not holding in our stomachs. We're going to let it all go. So just go ahead and take a slow, deep breath in. And again, all the way in. Let all of your breath flow out. And notice that your body has already undergone a change. Letting go a little bit of whatever happened before you shut yourself in your room to be part of this. And what I want you to do now, and however this feels comfortable to you, but I want you to kind of squeeze all the muscles in your body. So you're going to make a fist, and you're going to squeeze your arms and your stomach and your glutes and your thighs and your calves and even your toes, and scrunch up your face and then let it go. And notice that you might feel some buzzing or throbbing in your hands, in your thighs maybe, And we're just going to do that one more time. So just squeeze everything all together tight, your face, your arms, your forearms, your fists, your stomach, your glutes, your thighs, your calves, your toes. You probably feel really silly, but then let it go. And feel that difference in your body, that difference between tense and relaxed. That is what we've been living in this past year. And it has been so hard on so many levels. And I know that we are all feeling it in various ways. We have been incredibly isolated. We have been very, very anxious, worried about our health, the health of our loved ones, the health of our kids. You've been tasked with keeping little ones sitting still in front of a computer, or chasing little ones that just want to go out and be toddlers and interact with other kids. And it's a lot. And so I really just want to acknowledge that, because I don't think we slow down enough to acknowledge that this year has been a lot, that everyone is needing more than anyone can give right now. And I know that we as women a lot of times carry a lot of pressure because we want to be there for everyone. We want to be all things to all people. You want to be the best wife. You want to be the best mom. You want to be the best friend. You worry that, being the best wife and the best mom means you can't be a good friend. And we're just spread so thin on so many levels. And kind of like I was telling, part of the group at the beginning, what 2020 did afford us was the opportunity to slow down. We live in a very fast-paced culture. We're always going, going, going. And most of the time when somebody says, "How are you feeling?" or "How are you?" we respond with, "Okay," or "Fine," or "I'm good." But none of those are emotions. And so we're so out of tune with our emotions and with what we're feeling. And oftentimes, those emotions that we're out of touch with are driving a lot of our behaviors. And so, what happens when we don't slow down and give our bodies time to think about how we're doing, or take time to process and check in with ourselves or journal, is that we're just reacting. And instead of being emotionally informed, we're being emotionally driven. And so that is where things like anxiety come and creep in. That is where things like depression come and creep in. And what I see so much in the clients that I work with is a fear of slowing down. And I do that myself, because there are so many times that I know that what I need is just to sit down and journal and process whatever is going on, or the thoughts that I've been avoiding, or the feelings I've been avoiding, because I'm worried that if I go there, I might lose myself in there. What if I let myself go there and then I can't get myself out of it? What if that means that I'm impacted by work, or at work, or with my relationships? And if there is one thing that I can encourage tonight, is that we take this beautiful gift that 2020 has given us, this gift that, a lot of us have felt is more of a burden, because there has been a lot of loss, and we have been deprived of community, and we've had to let go of so many things, and people's lives have been impacted, their health has been impacted, finances, all of these things. But if we can instead take that as an invitation to slow down and to really check in with ourselves and say, how am I doing? What better women will we be? What better people in relationship will we be? Better friends? If we're not full, we're giving out of empty spaces and empty places. And then that's the time that, like, you don't get to choose to slow down. Your body will choose to slow down for you. That's why when you go on vacation, you all of a sudden get sick for a week. It's like, oh, I've planned this vacation. And your body's like, well, you're finally slowing down. Here you go. So I just want to, I don't know, that was just really important to me, that I think a lot of us have interpreted this last year as so much doom and gloom, and it has been heavy, and I don't want to diminish that at all. But I also think about what Tracy told me you guys have been doing. You've been taking time to slow down and look at family values, to look at your relationships, and to look at what you want your family to look like, what your purpose is, who you guys are in this world, and what you have to bring to the table. And so if you can kind of embrace that attitude and that mindset, unstoppable, like unstoppable forces. So it's that tension of honoring the hard and recognizing it and validating it. And we as women can be really good at invalidating our own feelings, but really honoring that and saying, this is really hard and this is really good. And I'm going to choose to embrace both. So I really just want to share and be open about the fact that I actually struggle with mental health. That is something that's really important for you to know. I tell my clients that I do. I struggle pretty much with depression. I know I'm a really happy, joyful person, and I totally am. And I like to say that I got like the fun part of depression that makes you kind of funny. So, I've got that going. But there are also times that my depression has completely and utterly debilitated me. And I say that to offer hope, because I understand that there are things that I've had to walk through so that I could walk other people through them as well. And so when I get to talk to people, whether it's a client or another person, one of the things that I have to offer is the hard stuff that I've walked through. And I don't know if any of you have read any of Glennon Doyle's books or anything like that, but one of the things she talks about, she posted on social media, was about an amethyst. And an amethyst becomes an amethyst because something actually went wrong in the stone. And so it's the thing that's hard, that's messy, that's actually making the beauty. And so as we're thinking about this last year, as we're thinking about moving ahead, it's that hard, messy stuff that feels so cringy that is actually producing the most beautiful gem that is fierce and strong. And I really loved that. But I will say that there were a number of times that I was in that place of deep depression where if you had told me I was going to be a beautiful gem, I would have hit you in the face. So that's where the validation piece comes in really strong. But yeah, I like to talk about that because I really want to shatter mental health stigma. And if there's anything else that this year has taught us, it's that we all struggle. I just started my private practice and I'm already full because there's been so much need. Like kids are struggling, parents are struggling, we're all struggling. And all of the things that we would normally have that would distract us from what we're feeling, our social interactions, going out and doing things, those are all removed. And then it's like, oh, hi, here's all the feelings. It's like binge watching all of This Is Us in one sitting, like all the feels. So I really want to destigmatize mental health because we all struggle in whatever capacity. So whether it's, bouts of anxiety or full-blown depression, or if it's not you, it's someone you love and someone you care about, I really like to just say, like, we all have it. We've all got it in our families, and it's okay to not be okay. That is just, it's okay to not be okay. You don't have to have it together all the time. You don't have to look good all the time. You don't have to be the most productive mom or bake all of the yummy snacks or make your baby food from organic, apples and oranges that only come from a certain coast. I mean, whatever that looks like, you don't have to have it together all the time. And in fact, if there's anything that I've learned, is that the beauty that comes out of vulnerability and the places that we're willing to let other people see, that are even places of pain or places that haven't fully healed yet, are oftentimes what produce the greatest fruit and strengthen relationships most. So whether it's in your marriage, whether it's in your role as a mom, whether that's in friendships, It's going to be the vulnerability and the willingness to let yourself be seen that actually equips you with what you need to get through all the hard things. So, Brene Brown, if you're not familiar with her, do yourself a favor and read any number of her books. Dare to Lead, Wholehearted. Is it Wholehearted? Braving the Wilderness. She has quite a few. She also has a Netflix special. But she actually started out researching shame and looking at common themes in people who carry a bunch of shame. And so, we talk guilt and shame. Guilt is I did something wrong. Shame is I am wrong. And as she was researching shame, she realized that the only antidote to shame is actually vulnerability. Because unless we're willing to open ourselves up and open up the places of deepest pain and shame in ourselves, then we're going to continue to go it alone. And I think that in this year, we've all felt so alone. And I know that there have been times that I was just sitting there hoping for somebody to reach out or hoping for somebody to say, hey, I've been thinking about you. And then what happens when that doesn't happen is we let it confirm those negative thoughts that we have about ourselves, that when we sit in things alone long enough, they start to play over and over and over again. So then all of a sudden, the notion that nobody loves me, nobody cares about me, people only value me for what I give to them, people only want things from me, that starts to get kind of reinforced. And so where the vulnerability piece comes in is saying, hey, this person, my close friend, or whatever relationship, I've been really struggling with thinking these thoughts about my worth and my value only being rooted in what I have to contribute. Will you remind me of the truth? Will you tell me who I am? And that sounds like a really scary thing to do because it's real vulnerable, especially like, I'm not going to lie. I like looking good. I like looking like I have it all together. I like it when people see me and they think, all right, like she knows how to get things done. And who can relate to that? I just so many times spent so much energy trying to be the person who had it all together that I missed out on opportunities to genuinely connect and be real with people. And the only thing I missed out on trying to look like I had it all together was opportunities for intimacy and connection. And that is something that we so desperately need. And yes, it looks differently. Am I so sick of looking like I'm in the Brady Bunch? Absolutely. And vulnerability and community are available to us. It doesn't always have to be in person. And so that's something that was really on my heart to speak to everyone about tonight and like, I want you to start kind of mulling it over. What is vulnerability supposed to look like for you in this season? Who are the people that I'm supposed to be vulnerable with? Are there places of my life where I haven't let anyone in, areas of pain or areas that are in need of healing? Because oftentimes those areas that we protect so hardcore are often our places of deepest pain and shame. And until we are willing to let somebody see that, not just anybody, but somebody who you trust, who you're in a safe, healthy relationship with, only then will you be set free from that. And so it's something that I've had to wrestle with so much in my own life, and just the difficulty of like, oh gosh, I feel like I'm going to throw up right now. I feel like I'm going to share something really personal about myself. Oh gosh, I know I have to do this. And it does. It feels like that. But then when you consider the fact that I've been carrying all that alone and completely consumed by it, and then I get to share it with somebody else, that alleviates the load. Instead of just me carrying it, I'm sharing it. That's what this community is that is available to you. And I'm so glad that you guys have each other. And I'm so glad that you are continuing to meet, even if it can't look like sitting together around a coffee table. So I just really that's one of the things that I really felt pressed on my heart to talk about. Another thing is just to recognize and honor how hard this year has been. I want you guys to know that it is so okay if you have cried in the closet. It is so okay if you have noticed yourself, sneaking more Oreos or whatever that looks like. You have done really hard things this year. And I think sometimes we don't give ourselves enough credit for the hard things that we do. And then you add things like the anxiety of living in a global pandemic, and you add the depression that comes with our beloved son that we rarely get to see hiding away for 3 months, and the seasonal affective disorder that is very, very real. And we're cut off from community, and we're stuck in one room with all our people and can't always go. Validate yourself. You made it here tonight. You have showed up every day, and that is huge. And I just want you guys to know that you're all heroes for doing that and for keeping little ones alive and for trying to be safe in a time when the world is trying to do nothing but tell you that you're not safe. So just really giving space to honor that here and to say job well done. And also carrying this hope of I'm hoping that we can continue to move forward and leave behind the crummy stuff and take with us the stuff that slowed us down to help us consider the things that really matter. So I do want to touch on some mental health stuff because I've seen a lot of spike in anxiety and in depression. Anxiety mostly. Depression definitely, but I feel like that's a pretty common thing up here. Just, we all feel the winter blues, and some people feel it on a different level. I think sometimes we have a tendency to think of depression in terms of the person who can't get out of bed at all and they're completely debilitated and haven't showered in multiple days. And yes, that is depression, but sometimes depression looks like just crying more. Sometimes it looks like noticing that having to pick up around yourself feels extra hard. Sometimes it feels like recognizing that you're feeling lonely. Sometimes it feels like you're not reaching out to your people. You desperately want to share and connect, but it just feels like too much. So I just want to kind of bring that to your awareness. You can be depressed and not have depression. And I think that that's something that we've experienced quite a bit in these last seasons. When we're talking about clinical depression, we're talking about changes in weight, weight gain or weight loss, unintentional, changes in eating patterns, noticing sleeping more or sleeping less, increased maybe angry outbursts or irritability. With that, a lot of fatigue. For some people, it's thoughts about hurting themselves in various capacities, or just really just kind of feeling like there is not a lot of joy to be felt and everything just kind of feels heavier. So that, in terms of depression, that is something that, I've noticed people experiencing a lot, and given everything that we've had to walk through and the uncertainty of these times, it makes total sense. If there's ever going to be a year that somebody experiences depression, not at all surprised. And when we don't do anything with that, when we're just sitting in it, then we're not giving it anywhere to go. And so some of the things that I want to encourage you to do sounds so simple, but if you do them and you utilize them, it can make a huge difference in your mood levels. One thing, I'm telling you, none of this is rocket science, but go take a shower. If you're just feeling so overwhelmed and it takes everything within you, maybe you're on day 5, which I've never done. Day 5 of not washing your hair, but maybe you are. Just kidding. That was literally me yesterday. Go take a shower and wash your hair. It makes a huge difference. Another thing that you can do is go for a walk. I know it's hard because it's rainy. Put on some rain boots, grab an umbrella. Yes, I use an umbrella. I don't know why all of you are so resistant to using an umbrella. I don't want to mess up my hair. So take it from the Southern Californian and take an umbrella and go for a walk. A 5-minute walk, a 10-minute walk changes things. Just getting outside, having a change of scenery. A lot of research. There's a whole department at OSU devoted to this study of how nature positively impacts our mental health and wellness. We live, like when I was driving up here from Southern California, I was half expecting like the Cullens to jump out of those trees. Like we live in such a beautiful area. And I think we take it for granted. Go outside, go touch a tree, hug a tree. Like this is 2020. Like, oh wait, no, it's 2021. That's where we're at these days. Anyways, go outside, get some fresh air, take a deep breath. And that's another thing. That exercise that I had you do, so often we are not breathing. We're not breathing properly. We are not breathing properly. The kind of breaths that are actually cleansing and slow us down. And so if you've even noticed, me slowing down the tone in which I'm talking has calmed you down a little bit. That's the way that we can impact our surroundings as well. So if you're noticing people starting to feel a little keyed up or a little irritable, that's a little trick from my 911 dispatch days. Had to do a lot of slow talking to get people in trauma, to tell me where they were so I could get them help. But it really does make a difference just slowing down. And it might sound counterintuitive that if you're feeling depressed, you should slow down. But really what's usually happening is you're slowing down because you're not paying attention to something that you desperately need to be paying attention to. And so I just want to encourage you that whatever that space or that place is that you're afraid to go to, that's actually the way that you're going to get out of it. The other thing, who are your people? Like, who are the people who will call you out if you have a fake smile plastered on your face? Who are the people who will say, like, yeah, I know you said that you're okay, but I'm calling you out. The people who you can just lay it all out there with, who you can say, like, yeah, I'm on day 5 and I haven't washed my hair because it feels like the biggest task in the world. Reach out to your people because those are going to be the ones who can carry you through these times. Another thing I want to challenge you to do, I know you've got so much going on, but we all have people in our lives who we know are struggling. And I think about me and I think about those times that I am so desperately wishing that somebody would just text me out of the blue to tell me that I'm loved and to tell me that I matter. And when I do get those texts, how much that changes me and how much that changes things. So be that person who speaks that voice of truth into the lives of your loved ones and see, 1, how much of a powerful impact you have on their life, but 2, how much better it makes you feel. Sometimes when I'm feeling pretty depressed, I actually write cards to friends who I love and tell them all the things I love and appreciate about them. And quickly that depression and that isolation turns into connection and gratitude. So that might be something worth considering as well. If you can't find 3 things that you appreciate about this life, then you're not looking hard enough, because I'm just looking around my room and blown away by my beautiful little plants that are like budding, and like we just slow down. If we slow down enough, we can cultivate the gratitude that we need to press into to come out of it. Now, anxiety. Anxiety is the one that I've seen spike quite a bit, and understandably so. We are constantly inundated with information. And I want that to be something that you think about, whether it's the news, whether it's social media. It's literally called a feed. What are we feeding our brains? I'm going to say that again. What are we feeding our brains? If it's images on Instagram, are you following only people who make it look like they have the ideal life, or are you following people who are keeping it real? Are you slowing down to not watch the news every hour just to get an update on something that you're already feeling anxious about? Because I'm going to tell you, anxiety begets anxiety. Get updates sent to your email if you need to, or find another way to get news that won't impact you so much. But it really does make a big difference, especially with everything that's been going on in the world. People don't feel settled. And so being intentional about what information you take in and what space you're in when you take in information can make a huge difference in anxiety. One of the things that I've noticed quite a bit is that people who have already been struggling with anxiety, it's elevated even more. And people who maybe like would struggle every now and then are experiencing anxiety. And people who were experiencing anxiety are experiencing full-blown OCD or agoraphobia, where they're afraid to leave their homes. And COVID is a very real thing. And it should also not make us totally afraid to leave our homes. And so that's something that I've seen quite a bit, that people literally will not go live their life. And I'm talking about like running essential errands, like going to the grocery store or things along those lines. Anxiety has been crippling for so many people. And when I'm talking about anxiety, what I'm talking about is just this excessive worry all the time. Like you can't shut your brain off. Like you probably should have been in risk assessment, because you can look at a room and say, oh, somebody could trip over that. Oh, if they get into that car, they could run a red light. Oh, this could possibly happen. And so mind is constantly going to worst case scenario. It also can lead to irritability as well, increased startle response, faster heart rates, difficulty falling asleep because you can't shut your brain off, all sorts of things. Just kind of feeling keyed up or on edge, like you're always waiting for the next shoe to drop, like something's always about to happen. So feeling those things every now and then, that's normal. Like worrying about your kids if they're sick, totally normal. If you have a presentation, maybe you're feeling a little nervous to give a talk on mental health to a group of very lovely women, but you still feel nervous. Or, if your spouse is traveling, those things are very normal. But when it starts to get to the point that it is debilitating you from living your life, that's the time to seek help. And so I've seen a lot of people experience that, and it's really overwhelming, and it's not forever. So when we're talking about those anxious moments, it's reminding ourselves that no feeling is final. That's literally one of my favorite quotes. No feeling is final. Whatever you're feeling now, no matter how consuming it feels, no matter how endless it feels, no feeling is final. I remember when I was in the throes of my depression, I didn't think that I would ever feel joy again. I thought, this is it. I'm 26 and I'm never going to feel joy again. And it felt so real. It was so real that I couldn't sing. I'm a singer and, was in musicals and choir. And I was so depressed that I couldn't sing. I thought I'd never sing again. And then good therapy, and for me, I had to take medication. It brought me out and I was able to kind of reclaim my life again. And now I get to experience joy at the most beautiful things. So even just that reminder that whatever it is you're feeling, you're not always going to feel that way, which is great, because I don't always want to feel anxious. I don't always want to feel angry. But I can also say that the depression and the hard stuff that I've had to live through enabled me to experience a sadness and a darkness I never thought I would, but it also increased my capacity for joy in a really powerful way. So if you can kind of see things for that, it really changes things. So a couple things if you are feeling anxious. One of the things that I actually do with people who experience trauma and deal with like trauma flashbacks or things like that is I have them get really sour candy, like warheads. And the sour taste buds startle you the most. And so if you are finding yourself consumed with anxiety, you can just pop a warhead in your mouth or just something really tart and sour if you want to like squeeze like a lemon or something. That is something that can kind of shock you and be like, oh, right, like I don't need to stay there. Couple other things, you could run your hands under very cold water or very warm water. Like I was talking about, the breathing is big, but if you're like, that's not breathing. So maybe don't try to press into those deep breathing exercises when you're feeling anxious. But something as simple, like even right now, just put your feet on the ground, or if you're sitting on the bed, wiggle your feet in the covers and feel the sheets or feel the ground beneath your feet. Feel whatever you're sitting on, it's holding you. You're paying attention to wherever you're seated, is how it's touching your back, how it's touching your legs. You're paying attention to things that we're normally not paying attention to. And so whenever we can become more grounded with the present, then that snaps us out of anxiety as well. If you're having trouble falling asleep because your brain is just going all the time, you can keep a journal by the bed and you can write about all the things that are weighing so heavily on you or all the things that you need to do tomorrow and just kind of get it all out of your brain so that you're like, okay, I did that. And when you're lying in bed and you're trying to fall asleep, you can say, you know what? I already wrote about that. I already know I need to do it tomorrow. I'll take care of it tomorrow. And you can kind of even schedule time to have anxiety, like recognizing throughout the day, like, okay, I'm feeling anxious right now. I'm going to write this down because I know I need to worry about this, or I know I need to think through details on this. And you literally schedule a time to sit there and like either write all about the things that you're worried about or details that have to work through. And you just go there and you set a timer for 10 minutes and you let the anxiety happen and then you're done. And so it sounds really hard and it takes a lot of practice, but the more that you do it, the more regularly you can access that. So when those anxious feelings pop up throughout the day and it's not your scheduled time to worry, you can say, okay, I know I need to worry this. I'm going to worry about this. I'm going to make a note of it, but now's not the time. And the more that you address those thoughts, the more that you're challenging the power that they have. And the concept of neuroplasticity is really incredible and super hopeful because it's essentially understanding that the ways that we think don't always have to go to the places that they're used to going. So if your brain is always used to going to depression or always used to going to anxiety, the more you think in anxiety and depression, the more reinforced that pathway is. But the more that you challenge it and you say, no, I recognize that I'm feeling anxious and it's okay that I'm feeling anxious, but now's not the time, you're redirecting those thought patterns. And the more and more you redirect those thought patterns, the more reinforced non-anxious thinking becomes or more hopeful thinking becomes. So it's pretty incredible. I just really, I mean, I know y'all are on mute right now, but I also just really wanted to open it up to if anybody has questions. I kind of like was a little bit all over the place, but hopefully there was like one teeny tiny tidbit that you're like, okay, I'll worry later. But I do want to give space for questions if you have them.
I actually had a question about, So my anxiety tends to show its ugly face in the form of intrusive thoughts, which I actually was calling them that before I knew that was an actual thing, because I didn't know it was a thing until this last year. But they're extremely vivid, and like I've had chronic nightmares that I've been dealing with, but they always have to do with just horrible situations, like death, like horrible things. Thank you, sweetheart. Around her, around myself, around, and a lot of times it's just it's things that would never happen. Like I'm afraid of heights, so like some of the things are like, maybe we go on a hike and I'm holding her, but like all of a sudden I just let her go. Like, things like that where I'm like, oh, and it actually like takes me a minute to kind of come back and be like, okay, I would never do that, and that's not a real thing, and it's not happening. Like, I'm in bed. So it's like I don't know how to really go about managing those, because they really pop up out of nowhere. They don't tend to happen when I'm in a situation where I feel stressed. It's usually later.
Well, first and foremost, raise your hand if you've ever had thoughts like that.
Glad to know I'm not alone. I kind of figured that.
One, our brains are just kind of weird, and sometimes that's just where they go. And, it's going to be normal that they go there sometimes. And the fact that you're able to bring yourself out of it is good. Like, now, if you are finding yourself staying there and you're finding yourself going there more and more, then that might be time to start thinking about finding somebody to talk to. Because if it's the kind of thing that it's starting to impact your daily functioning, if it's the kind of thing where you're pulling back from going places because you're worried about something happening, if it's the kind of thing where you're worried way too much and it's occupying a lot of brain space all the time, then that might be the time to seek some help. But if it's just like an every now and then weird random thought that's happening, that can be normal. And I would just say that when your brain is going to those places, that you kind of approach it from a place of curiosity. So don't judge yourself. Like, I can't believe I thought that. Why would I think that? Like, no, our brains go to weird places all the time. Like, trust me, I'm a weird person. And like, you just kind of say like, well, that was weird. That would never happen. And you just dismiss it. And then you've just robbed it of all its power. So kind of like another thing with anxiety is not white knuckling it, like recognizing, honoring, like, I'm feeling anxious right now. Like, okay, I'm feeling anxious. It's going to pass. Because I found that the more it's like, don't be anxious. I know I shouldn't be anxious. It just leads to more rigidity and you just kind of tense up even more. So that's what I'd recommend. So if it's something that's happening quite a bit, you might want to look into talking to somebody about it. But if it's just a here and there kind of thing and you're able to bring yourself down and, then, that sounds a little doable, but I don't know. I hope that helps.
Yeah, it does. Thank you. I tend to try to Marie Kondo it in a way, like, where like I'll think something and I'm like, you know what? Thanks for that. I'm not gonna
let it go.
I'm not gonna keep that. Thanks.
Yeah, this does not bring me joy.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
I have a question.
Yeah.
So I have been thinking recently, like, just about people. Well, what I've been missing recently is like having those random connections with people, when you run into them at home group, that you wouldn't necessarily text them or call them or reach out to them, but you would see them, and I haven't been. So I guess my question is like, what is a good way to just randomly text somebody without being creepy or without being like, I'm thinking about you? You know what I mean? That just seems weird to a lot of us, but I feel like I've been wanting to just like randomly call people and be like, hey, I haven't seen you for months and months. Like, how are you? Or what's going on in your life? But I don't want to be the weirdo who's like creeping out on people.
And let's just acknowledge that little voice that's telling you that you're a weirdo for doing that as a social anxiety. And it's real. It's a normal thing. I'm by no means diagnosing you with that. And I've had those same thoughts. Like, I don't want to seem like a creeper. I hope they don't think we're weird. But has anybody ever had somebody reach out to you out of the blue and say, I'm thinking about you? It feels pretty good, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it feels really good. I was raised, my mom always said, if you see something that makes you think of someone, if you think something kind about someone, you tell them. You don't just assume that they know, because our words have the power to make somebody's day even better. Who knows? Maybe that person that you're thinking of that's on your heart is struggling hardcore, and you, even if you're a random person who they barely ever talk to, that speaks life and purpose into places of pain in them. And so it's really easy to avoid that for fear of what it might look like. And I honestly, I get teased all the time by my friends, like, there's Sarah goes making another friend or whatever. But I've also had people tell me how much that's impacted them. And so if given the choice of like, I might look a little weird, but I'm going to say something kind, or I know I'm supposed to say something kind, but I'm too afraid to, I'm going to go with, I don't mind if I look a little weird. So, and I also think too, I mean, we live in a very divisive world, and it's really easy to let that division be really big. And so when we choose to connect with people and we choose those opportunities for unity and connection, I really think that that makes a really positive impact, even like beyond the individual. I think that impacts all of their other relationships. So anytime you find yourself feeling the desire to press in to connection, I would say go for it. And welcome to the Weirdo Club.
Get ready for some texts, people.
Awesome. Does anybody else have questions?
I have a quick question really quick, and I'm sure this might be maybe more than just me, I'm sure. But my problem is I'm home all the time, and my control over the house being spot on clean 24/7 has never ever been like this. It eats at me, and I do not sleep. I have gotten up in the middle of the night and dusted my mini blinds in the middle of the night because they drove me crazy. In the middle of the night at 3 a.m. I've never in my life would get up. My husband's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I can't, I'm dreaming about this stuff. This stuff is driving me crazy. My mini blinds don't get cleaned, but maybe once a year, to be honest.
Yeah.
And now I'm cleaning them at 3 a.m., which I have never, ever thought of ever in my life. And this stuff drives, and it's like, I feel it's because that's the only thing I can control right now.
Yeah.
Is my house clean.
And that makes sense, because when we're having anxious times in life, we cling to the things that we feel that we're in control of. So for instance, people who struggle with eating disorders, that falls under the umbrella of anxiety, because the thing that they feel that they can control is their food. So you see it in toddlers. They're demonstrating their defiance because the things that they have control over are their eat, their sleep, and their food. And that's where they can say, oh no, I'm in control here. And so it's a semblance of control. But I would say that if you're finding yourself worrying about things that you would never ever worry about, it's because there's way more space in your life. Your life isn't, I don't know, I'm sure it's significantly changed at the very least in your interpersonal connections. And so things that you would otherwise be doing, whether it's taking kids to sports or it's, you would be coming to a group, there's space now that isn't occupied. But I would also challenge you to, like, not just you, but for all of us, when we have those things that we're finding ourselves desperately wanting to control, to recognize what is it that I'm actually looking for in this moment. Am I looking for it to be clean, or am I looking for myself to feel a little bit more calm and at peace? And if you can slow yourself down enough to challenge that question or to challenge what's driving that, then, and I talk about like the curiosity, like approach yourself with curiosity and with grace and kindness and compassion. Like, do not be hard on yourself. But yeah, just go to that and say like, okay, what is it that maybe I'm needing to feel right now? Like, you're waking up in the middle of the night. I mean, be curious about that. What might I need to feel right now? Or what am I really worried about that this action is making me feel better? Because it's the thing that you're doing isn't the thing at all. Because you might feel better for a second, but then you get back in bed and you start worrying about the china. I mean, I don't even know if people have china anymore, but it just what came to mind. So anyways, I don't know if that made sense, but hopefully you can just treat yourself with kindness and compassion and be curious about what's going on and give yourself grace and like, heck, your house is the cleanest it's ever been. Well done. It won't be like that again. So, yeah. It looked like Hillary had a question earlier.
I haven't fully thought it out, so I don't know exactly how to articulate, but I'm wondering, and also I wasn't here for the first part. I was in the throes of infant bedtime. So if you've already answered this, I plan on watching the playback. But if you could speak to what it looks like figuring out that it is the time to seek out counseling or therapy, and where I am, I probably should have come to this realization 6 months ago, but a month and a half or two ago, I finally started looking for a therapist.
Yeah.
And it's so overwhelming because there are so many different therapists, and using Psychology Today to narrow down by different topics, and then finally landing on one that looks like they might fit the bill, and then calling and finding out that they're full. I'm like, okay, call back at the end of February. I might be able to take patients, or new clients, but here's my friend, and I know she's taking new people, but I don't know anything about this other therapist, and do they specialize in postpartum anything? Are they faith-based? All these different things that I had finally narrowed down this one to.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess I don't know exactly what I'm asking, but just at what point do you know that it's time to do something and not just keep waiting for it to be easier to
I would
start?
say the very first time that you think maybe I need to talk to somebody about this. I think we can rationalize our way out of seeking help all the live long day. But if you're recognizing this is getting to be a little bit too much. I'm sick of feeling this way. It's time to reach out. And it is so hard in this area because there is such a need and not enough clinicians. I can tell you that. It's true. I unfortunately have to turn people away all the time, and I hate it. I will say though that when people say, hey, I will have availability, or, I do have a wait list, things change all the time. So someone who I'm seeing weekly could become somebody who I'm seeing every other week within a couple of days. And so if there is somebody that you really feel like you connect with, and it's worth it to you that you continue to pursue that person, I'm never that doesn't offend me. I'm flattered when people are like, I'm so sorry, but I really just want to work with you. I'm like, great, because that means that you read something on my profile that you connect with. And I write because I want a certain type of person to find me, because that's the type of person that I help the most and I feel the best with. So I just want to really honor how hard it is and how frustrating it is. And on behalf of all the clinicians in the area, I'm so sorry that it's like that, because it's hard because you finally reach a point where you're ready to ask for help, and then you're met with all these barriers, and it is really difficult. I will say though, I can only speak for myself, but I feel like this is pretty common within therapists, is that I would not send somebody who wants to work with me to someone who I know is very different in their approach. And, if you try to call somebody and they say, oh, let me give you this person, you can just say, do you happen to know of anybody who is a Christian and works with postpartum? I mean, we really we want to help people find the right fit and the right connection. We don't get into this work for the money. We don't we want people to feel better. And so if I'm not the right person, I want to help somebody find the right person. So yeah, Psychology Today is honestly probably one of the best ways of doing it. Because there are all the filters for, you can look for a Christian, you can look for somebody who works with postpartum. But I would just encourage you all that if, you or anyone is reaching out and they're feeling discouraged, one, that's normal. And two, things can change. So, if somebody says, I can add you to my wait list, don't feel totally discouraged. And there's a lot of work that you can do on your own to start being curious before you even, seek out the official help too. Most of the time we just don't sit still long enough to really sit with what we're feeling. So there's a lot of power in that. And the more that you do that, the more you are becoming that emotionally informed and not emotionally driven. So.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. I also, I want to be conscious of time. I know it's 8:02. Jamie, would it be okay if there's one more question?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Is there anybody who just has a burning question? Yeah, Jenny. Oh, hold on one second, Jenny. Can you unmute? There you go.
I'm not a tech person. It out.
That's okay. It wouldn't be a Zoom meeting if that didn't happen at least once.
Oh, good. Well, yeah. When you're done with this, guys, there was some guy that was on Zoom and he had a filter over his face, meeting with a judge, and it's a cat filter. And he's like, sir, I'm not a cat. I'm not a cat.
You're in real life. I just saw that before I got on.
Very funny. It's very funny.
So good.
So basically, my question is, I have a tendency to want to diagnose myself, right? Right now I'm depressed, I'm feeling anxious, I have OCD, I'm bipolar, schizophrenia. Okay. That's, I think, being a psych major, right? I'm self-diagnosing all the time. But what do you do when it's this isn't depression? I know I'm not depressed. I have moments of anxiety because I have 3 kids, 7 and under, and I'm in my house all day long. And also, I'm also from Southern California, and I know I'm experiencing some seasonal stuff.
Yeah.
But what do you do when you're just upset that you can't do all the things? Write the book, read the book, paint, garden, dance, all the things that you want to do. And you can't do those things because you're either because of COVID, or you're trapped, or you just feel there's no room for you to do you. You know what I mean? What do you do with that?
I'm so sorry. I don't know. I don't, because I feel that too. I think you just feel it and you let yourself feel it and you mourn and you grieve it, because so often we're trying to resist feeling those things or avoiding those thoughts. We just if we just let them happen to us, then we're honoring them. Man, I'm feeling so sad right now that I can't go garden, or I'm feeling really disconnected right now. And you find the saccharin, you find the sweet and low when you really just want the sugar, and you find a way to make it work. And I know that that's not going to meet the real need, but maybe it can meet some of the need. Because those things that you're talking about, maybe there's ways that you can prioritize some of those things, because I mean, maybe you need to ask for help. Maybe you need to say, hey, I really need to get to the garden. Will you come help me so that I can take care of myself? Or you put up a boundary and you say, no, we're not going to do that right now because I'm not in the space to be able to do that. And so just recognizing and honoring whatever it is that you're feeling and letting yourself go there, and then recognizing another way that you might meet the need. But again, I'm going to pull on my favorite quote, you're not always going to feel this way.
Thanks.
Yeah, that was that sucked. I'm sorry. I don't have a good answer.
I might have something to say because I totally resonate with you, Jenny. I don't know if I'm allowed to say something. Jamie, I'm allowed to say something.
Of course, Megan.
I was just listening to Andy Stanley, who's a leadership podcaster, and he shared some words of wisdom from a parent that has adult children, and it really resonated with me when I feel the way that I understand what you're saying, Jenny. And he said that him and his wife, when they were first had kids, they did this, and it changed everything. They wrote out the things that they want to do someday and the things that they're doing now. And they made 2 lists, and they said, someday when our kids are grown, we're going to write the book. We're going to do the thing. We're going to sail around the world. And they just recognize, like, this is the season for this right now. And this is not the season for that. But it's not that I'm closing the book or closing the door. It's just going to happen later. And so I feel like with parenting, that I found so much freedom in that. I'm like, oh, like I don't have to be a snowboarder right now. I don't have to be a runner that can run that far. I don't have to write. I don't have to read as many books, but someday I will, perhaps. And then I think it's helpful with COVID too, where like right now, like I'm not going to have the clean house. I'm not going to, go to parties. I'm not going to go to that wedding, but someday I will. And it's similar to what you're saying, Sarah, with your feelings. We won't always have the same circumstances. We won't have the same restrictions. So it will change, and just recognizing that it will perhaps be a later time. It's helpful for me.
Thank you so much, Megan. And again, like this is why we have community, so that you can be real and find out that you're not alone. Because that's exactly what happens when we're alone, is we are tempted to believe that nobody else could ever feel this way. But when we choose to press into that vulnerability, we realize, one, we're not alone. Then we realize we don't have to carry it just by ourselves. And somebody may have walked through that before. Somebody may have heard something that really hit home and they share it. And so don't underestimate the power of community, and don't underestimate the power of you in community, because everything that you've had to walk through might also be something that helps somebody else walk through the same thing. Okay.
Oh man, thank you so much, Sarah. We just so appreciate your time. But I took pages and pages of notes, and I feel like we should start every morning with those deep breath exercises and like cringing. And so there's lots of these on YouTube. It's me every morning. Gonna do that.
Awesome. Well, thank you all so much for having me. I'm gonna go, but I wish you all just the most encouragement and joy, and finding it in the smallest moments, and that you all just take good care of yourselves, because you totally deserve it. So eat the Oreos, sleep in when you can, whatever, but have a wonderful rest of your week.
Thank you so much, Sarah.
Bye, everyone.
And homies, before you guys take off, we have a little door prize raffle. So Tracy Lawrence is on here somewhere. Tracy, can you talk so that they can see our first door prize?
Yes, here I am. Okay, so we have this beautiful little journal for you to write all your thoughts or all the things you appreciate about other people, right?
And our winner for that is Karen Roman. Yay! All right, our next door prize.
It's very easy to take care of, I'm pretty sure. Just in case any of you guys are wondering. But a little bit of fresh oxygen in your life.
All right, Megan Carstensen. I can't hear you, but I can see you, Megan.
Oh, dude, I was jonesing for that. I was like, I saw that at Trader Joe's and I stood and looked at it for so long and I decided not to. Oh, I'm pumped.
Well, it was obviously meant to be then, right?
Dude, I feel honored.
Okay, here's the last one. Another journal. This one is hard to see, but it says dream right there. So.
All right, and Chelsea is our winner on that one. Are you still here, Chelsea?
No, I saw her.
Yeah.
Was anybody else watching her cat antics the whole time? Is she gone? Oh, yes.
Sorry.
Your kitty's gone, but that was hilarious.
Oh my gosh, he wouldn't stop. I'm like, butt down. Sorry. But no, thank you. I'm going to be writing all my thoughts. So
Good. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I feel like I learned so much, and I am excited to hear kind of your guys' thoughts on this. And maybe we'll put a little thread on our Facebook page so you guys can follow up any like nuggets of wisdom that you guys brought home. But yeah, we'll see you guys in 2 weeks. We're gonna do like a date night discussion. Ways to get creative about our date nights, just what's working for you, what's not, or maybe even just dreaming of, remember that one day we went on a date, and someday we'll be able to do that again. Like maybe that's in that column right now of not in this season, but next season. But we love you guys. Thanks so much for coming. You're welcome to stay and chat. But yeah, we miss you guys. Talk to you soon.